Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services today, we ask that you kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices or place them on hold. Thank you.
We all wish that we didn't have to be here today. It's sad when we lose anyone, but it is especially tragic when we lose someone like Tammie Rosen to cancer far too soon at the young age of 49. Tammie, we know, will be greatly missed by her beautiful and beloved family, her mother Cheryl, Stephanie and Mitchell, Brian and Katie, and her beloved nieces and nephews, Jacob, Remy, and Christopher. An incredible group of close friends, dear colleagues, and so many others. We are all deeply saddened by her loss. There is a verse from the book of Job that we just recited when we did Kriya, when we tore the ribbons. The tear that we make is a symbol of our sadness in our hearts at this time of loss. And after making that tear and saying the blessing, we say, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakachi hishem Adonai mevarach. The Lord gives, the Lord takes away, yet we still bless the name of the Lord. And at first glance, this blessing might seem upsetting or even offensive for those of us mourning a loved one. Why should we praise God at this time? But there's a modern commentator, Pinchas Pelly, who interprets this verse in a way that I think provides some perspective and some comfort for us at this moment. He says that the words Adonai natan, the Lord gives, represents the moment of birth, the beginning of life. And the words Adonai lakach, the Lord takes, represents the moment of our death, the very end of life. And those final words, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach, where we bless the name of God, is really thanking God for all of those years in between. While we all wish that Tammie had more years in between her life's beginning and end, we are also grateful for the years we did get to spend with her, for all of the love, the warmth, the creativity, and the kindness that Tammie brought to all of us during those 49 years. And so now we begin our service remembering Tammie, bringing each other comfort and honoring her memory by reciting psalms, thus linking her life with our ancient tradition to the Jewish people and to the eternity of God.
Shir lama'alot esainai eharim me'ain yavo Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz al yitein lamot raglecha al yanum shomerecha hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael Adonai shomerecha Adonai tzilcha yad yeminecha Yomam HaShemesh lo yakeka ve'yareach balayla Adonai yishmorcha mikora yishmor et nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam
Psalm 121, a song for ascents. I lift my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm and will guard your soul. God guards your going and coming, now and forever. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinahaleni, nafshi yashovev. Yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elech begeit salmavet, lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha mishantecha hema yenachamuni, taroch lefanai shulchan neged sodorai, tishanta v'shemen roshi kosid revaya. Achtov v'chesed yerdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti v'veit Adonai, le'orech yamim. Those were the Hebrew words of Psalm 23, also known as the Shepherd's Psalm, a psalm that we turn to in difficult moments such as this one. I'll invite you to recite with me the English translation of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
In Shul on Shabbat morning, we're currently reading from the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Torah. And it's in that book that we learn that when a loved one passes away, members of the family and close friends come forward to share words of memory. And it's that ancient tradition we'll continue here today as we have a wonderful group of speakers to come and speak about Tammie. First, we'll call upon her family, her siblings, Stephanie and Brian, along with Mitchell, and then her niece and nephew, Jacob and Remy, and her cousins, Amanda and Oliver. Then we'll hear from her friends, from Chrissy, from Leslie, and friends from Union, Nina, and Caroline. We'll start with Stephanie, Brian, and Mitchell.
I feel like you need a stand.
Before we start, tissues.
Because he's the only one that cries. Why? No, then people can't see
I'm
me.
taking them down. We're going to need them.
No, you're going to need them. Okay. For those that don't know me, I'm Stephanie, Tammie's older sister, and definitely not the writer in the family. As Tammie said throughout her entire cancer journey, we can do hard things, Steph. So here it goes, Tam. Lots of people will talk about Tammie's work and what she meant in the arts world. And all of us in her immediate family are in absolute awe of the press and tributes that poured in the last couple days when she was trending on all the Google and Twitter searches. Who knew? We didn't really know that world of hers. We just knew that Tammie was always working and not sleeping much. But during those times, Tammie was always present. We would each be working during the day and night, and our cell phones would just sit on Google Meet together, saying mainly nothing to each other, but watching and listening to each other work for hours each day. It was just our way to be closer physically. Quality time mattered to Tammie. Relationships mattered to Tammie, as you can see and feel in this room. But mostly, family mattered to Tammie. While I'm the realist in the family, Tammie was the eternal optimist. You could not get Tammie to think a negative thought or say a bad word about anything. And believe me, I tried a lot. Wasn't happening. For Tammie, there was always a way to find something positive in everything, and that is the essence of why she was beloved by everyone. It's also why I would literally not leave her side from the moment she got this cancer diagnosis. Tammie saw it as a linear line. She would get chemo, she would get better. Math really never was her strong suit. No academics were really her strong suit. I knew that she couldn't prep and think of every scenario with this journey as she could do at work. That was my role. I would let her focus on what she could, and I would always be 2 steps ahead of her so I could ease her into it on, quote, Tammie time. That's what she called her avoidance. With Tammie, fancy words sounded better. What Tammie could not do as well was focus on herself, and that part for all of us was really, really hard. I tried, but Tammie would just redirect, and it just wasn't worth risking our bond to have her mad at me. But with Tammie, somehow you never saw her physical size because her warmth, her generosity, her skills, and her personality was just so much bigger and took over the second you met her. She did so many things in life much larger than anyone else. She shopped and she collected, her fancy word for hoarding of nicer items. When she was at Union College, she convinced my parents she needed her car at school and she needed therapy in New York City, 2.5 hours away. What she really did was just go shopping at Saks. At least now she gets to spend a lot of time with my dad shopping without me telling them both no, that is not needed and it's time to go to bed because sleep matters. What Tammie really valued, though, was experiences. And with her arts and photography background, she really wanted to do the U.S., South and West, and Asia. And she knew that she was ready. She lost weight so she could hike and was just going to see where her travels would take her. She was comfortable going alone, but mostly had friends meeting her at all different stages of her trips, and squeezed in some work stuff in Doha as well. It was the happiest I had ever seen her. We would sit on Google Meet for hours every night, where she would tell me about her activities and the people she would meet, and we would plan out the next location because this trip was all about spontaneity, until the news about COVID started coming out, and I told her she needed to come home. So on her birthday on March 5th, 2020, she was finally home, and she moved to our shore house to kind of get her 2 weeks, and she never left. It was her house, not anyone else's anymore. She loved it there. She would walk on the beach every day and thus began the next obsession, seashell collecting and driftwood, the sticks and sea garbage that we have. We now have thousands, and I literally mean thousands of seashells. It simply made Tammie happy. So for whoever's coming to Shiva, you get to leave with a piece of Tammie's love by taking a seashell home with them. One of the best parts of Tammie was her selfless generosity. Many of us in this room were the recipients of that. For me, in her early New York City days, it was sample sale shoes, handbags, jackets, and clothes, because she knew I hated shopping, so anything nice I own is only because of Tammie. Last summer, it was the Tammie and Steph concert series. In 1 week, we did Bruce 2 times and Pink. I just said yes. We had the best time together, and I'm forever grateful that I always said yes. Lastly, Tammie always said that she got the bad genes in the family. She had the weight, the freckles, the webbed toes, the gray hair earlier. But what she really got was the best gene of all, and that was
my line.
well, I know, I took it.
I just told her that last night.
I put it in, and I'm not the best writer. And that was her unwavering warmth, and the word I loved from all the press this week was I'm not even going to be able to say it, but indefatigable spirit. To her friends and everyone here and listening, she was beyond lucky to have you as part of her life, and you all helped her in ways you will never know. It was life cut way too short with a hope trip to Africa for her 50th birthday, 3 months actually from today, for both of our dreams. But as she said to me on Sunday in the ICU when I played her Bob De Niro's voice message, she said, I have a good life. She knew that, and that mattered the most.
I'm Brian, the brother. Man, Tammie loved an event. Looking down, she's horrified with the seating arrangements, and she's pretty critical of some of the outfits, but she loved an event. And she'd turn anything into an event. If she heard people were coming over to the house, she'd poke in from around the corner and say, what are we serving them? We. Yeah. Tammie turned everything into a we. And if you countered with an I, what are we doing today? Well, I'm heading to the hardware store. That wouldn't stand. Great, I'll come with you. I love the hardware store. I'll be ready in 5 minutes. And because we're on Tammie time, 5 turned into 30. And because Tammie turns everything to 11, what became a trip to the hardware store to buy a light bulb becomes a shopping extravaganza where you just have to buy the tape that works underwater. Of a flood of what are we doing today moments. It was fated her first job was in fashion. Tammie loved to play dress up. Not her dressing up, her dressing others up. And most of her friends and family were the subject of this. Tammie would buy clothes, insist on someone putting them on. A photo shoot tended to follow, a few times involving a sailboat. My most enduring Tammie dress-up memory, and one of those what are we doing today moments, was Tammie, maybe 4 years old, and I pushing a baby carriage down the street, and in it was our cat, dressed head to toe in baby clothes. We got maybe 2 houses away before that poor cat leapt out, sprinting home, shedding bonnets and pants along the way, Tammie rushing to grab it. Just try one more time. Her friends and family were always better subjects than the cat. But for Tammie, we were all subjects and participants and confidants and playmates. Because Tammie injected fun into everything. And as much as Stephanie thinks she always gets her way, Tammie's her equal. When my dad passed a few years back, one of the items Tammie would not let us get rid of was this horrible patchwork leather fur coat from the 80s. I mean, it's hideous. I never saw my dad wear it, not a single time. It fit nobody. It lived in purgatory in a bag in the garage because we couldn't get rid of it, and yet it had no use. And for almost 4 years, Stephanie and I would tease her as often as possible that one day when she wasn't around, we would take it to Goodwill. All right, well, Tammie wins. It's my coat now.
Stephanie, come up here for 1 second.
Why? What do I get to? Why?
Stand up.
Oh, what are you doing?
Stand up.
Oh,
Stand up.
no. What are you doing?
Clap.
Oh, no.
Clap.
Oh, no. I would only,
She deserves it.
no. I would have done anything for her
She did. Thank you all.
all the time. Who needs to do that? Do you want your boxes?
Yes, bring it.
Do I want it? The coat? No, I'm good. Thank you, Cheryl. It looks so great on Brian, I never want to take it away. Yeah. Jacob and Remy, we'll call you up.
My Aunt Tammie was the glue that held the Graf Rosen family together. At our beach house, her favorite place, she was the architect of nearly every moment we shared, the one who turned ordinary weekends into celebrations and made every gathering feel intentional and full of warmth. Bringing people together was her love language, and she spoke it beautifully. It didn't matter whether it was a 4th of July dinner or a birthday party, she went all out. She remembered every detail about everyone she had ever met and had an uncanny way of making sure everyone around her felt happy, seen, and celebrated. Tammie was also the backbone of our family group chat. She was the person starting conversation 90% of the time, and if she didn't start it, she was the first to respond. Every response came laden with exclamation points and genuine excitement palpable through the screen. Constant comments included, "I'm so proud of you," "Way to go, Remy," and my personal favorite comment in response to a picture I sent of a corgi sighting, "It's not leashed to its owner, you should try to make it yours." Some of my favorite days were family birthdays, where she would scour the archives of her camera roll and post no less than 10 pictures of the birthday person as a child. Tammie loved fiercely. To her, there was no greater love than her family and friends, and I can see what an impact she made based on the number of people here today to remember and honor her legacy. She found happiness finding shells on the beach, going shopping and getting something expensive on sale, winning the family fantasy football league, and singing songs from Annie and The Sound of Music. The impact Tammie has left on me is indescribable. She showed me what it's like to live every day to the fullest. One instance of this occurred in the spring. I had gotten an internship for the summer, and I wanted to buy myself something with my first paycheck. I had two options, a Le Creuset Dutch oven or Hamilton tickets to my favorite musical. For weeks, I deliberated the choice, and I just couldn't decide. About 2 weeks after Tammie's cancer diagnosis, we had discussed it again, and she paused talking to me, and in one swift step, took the decision off my mind, providing me with the means to buy the tickets. It was such a perfect example of who she was, made even clearer by what she said afterwards. "Life is too short to have to make decisions. Now you can do both." My plan was to wait until Tammie was in remission to buy those tickets and go together, but devastatingly, that day never came. I know that whenever I do see Hamilton, it will mean infinitely more to me now. I'd like to think that that's what the gift really was, not the tickets themselves, but her way of telling me that I should choose joy, do things that make me happy, just as Tammie spent her life doing. Tammie taught me more than how to identify good alcohol or how to find a sale. She taught me kindness. She taught me that there really is optimism in the world and that there is always room for positivity. Tammie was my biggest advocate. She believed in me completely, cheered for my successes, and made sure I knew to enjoy every single day. I hope more than anything that I can carry even a morsel of her optimism in my very realistic person. I hope that she knows how grateful I am to be her niece, now and every day moving forward. And to my dearest Aunt Tammie, I hope you can hear me as I say, I love you forever and rest easy.
If you know me, you know I've never really been at a loss for words or an inability to write, but I wasn't able to write a eulogy for Tammie. It just seemed too difficult, so I will tell one story. Just about a week ago exactly today, I was at the movie theater right down the road in Cinemark Somerdale watching Wicked Part 2 by myself, like Tammie taught me was okay. And yeah, about halfway through the movie, I got a call from my mother, and like any 23-year-old, 24-year-old kid, I decline it and I say, "What's up?" And she says, "Call me," and I immediately get pretty worried. And so I walk out of the theater, I take the call, and it's my mom telling me that Tammie's being moved to hospice, that she has less than a week to live, probably. I take my sweet time. I'm in the hallway crying, really crying. And eventually I get a hold of myself and I walk back into the theater. And I'm seated next to these two kids and their mom and this young couple. But right as I walk in, the song For Good comes on. And I don't know if anyone's seen Wicked Part 2, but that song is about the two main characters and how their love for each other extends beyond life and death, and how they really appreciate that they even existed and they knew each other at all. And as the song plays, and I'm sitting there in between these people who love this movie, the tears are rushing down my face, and I am deeply worried that everyone around me thinks that I'm this huge fan of Wicked. I'm like, I promise you it's not, but my shirt is wet, and I can't stop, and I feel bad for everyone around me. But as I'm watching the movie, I'm listening to the lyrics, I realize how meaningful and relevant those words were. And so I'm going to read now the lyrics to the song For Good, and I hope you all kind of think deeply about what this means, especially in relation to Tammie. It goes, I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better, but because I knew you, I've been changed for good. It well may be that we may never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart, and that whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind of the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I've been changed for good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob and Remy. And now we'll call up Amanda and Oliver.
This is going to be harder. The last time I had to do this was for our dad. And Tammie was sitting right there, and she'd given me a flask beforehand. And she had another one for afterwards, which was really valuable. I don't have that this time around, but I'll try my best. We want to thank everyone for being here today. The outpouring of love and support over the last 7 months and in these last few days has been truly incredible. This is one of those moments where words cannot do justice to our appreciation for all of you. We are so grateful.
Tammie was a force of nature, plain and simple. She was relentless and uncompromising, both in her work and in her commitment to her family and her friends. She had a commanding presence, despite being 5 feet tall, and knew how to take control of a room. At the same time, she carried herself with incredible grace and with poise. She was singularly talented at diffusing tense situations and bringing people together, reminding them about what they had in common and why that mattered more than their differences of opinion. Given her laundry list of accomplishments over 2 decades at Tribeca and Sundance, it's no surprise her professional community has been so vocal these past few days. She was, and always will be, recognized as a master of her craft. She operated with a warmth and with a generosity of spirit that doesn't come around often, and that left a lasting impression on everyone who was lucky enough to cross paths with her.
And for those of you who have read the articles on Deadline and IndieWire and others, which have been amazing to see, you will know that they got a lot right about Tammie. Her Bruce fandom, which bordered on obsession, but in a very healthy way, because everyone loves the boss. Her signature red lipstick, her unmatched dedication, her integrity, and her unwavering moral compass. Everything in those articles is true. Tammie was extraordinary. She taught us about taking the right path rather than the easy path, and her work ethic set an example that we both try to follow. But, as the younger cousins, we also knew another version of Tammie, the cool, fun, older cousin version. No offense to Brian and Steffi, but Tammie knew how to party, and she worked at a film festival, and there's really just no way to compete with that.
Tammie took us to concerts and to shows. She introduced us to classic movies and to great music, and she opened up a world of art and culture that she loved so deeply to us. She also taught us a thing or two about drinking, of course with a very strong emphasis on how to do so responsibly, and about how to have a good time. She unfortunately taught us much less about how to avoid getting caught by our parents, which is unsurprising as we understand she was not exactly an expert in that department. Every Thanksgiving and every trip to Margate was that extra bit more exciting because it meant we got to spend time with Tammie, to live in her orbit and to absorb the contagiously positive energy she so effortlessly radiated. It was impossible not to laugh and joke around when you were with her. And if for some bizarre reason her presence alone didn't immediately lift your spirits, you were in for a very long day. Tammie would stay by your side until one of her jokes or one of her stories, constantly interrupted by her own laughter, made you crack a smile.
We benefited from that tireless pursuit of laughter more than most, in part because nothing mattered more to Tammie than family, and in part because she made a habit of crashing our family vacations growing up. Tammie was somehow always available when we had a trip planned, offering free babysitting services to our parents in exchange for an extra room. Tammie was a horrible babysitter. She dropped me on my head when I was maybe 2 years old, which is probably the reason I'm not 6 feet tall. But her infectious positivity made a trip feel like a getaway. And Tammie didn't just show up for vacations. She showed up for everything. It may be a little bit hard to believe because she basically never answered her phone or her texts, but she was a constant presence at every milestone in life, sitting in the front row and cheering very, very loudly. Sometimes too loudly, but the intentions were always good. Even as she was fighting cancer, Tammie never missed an important moment. 6 months ago, just as she was about to start treatment, Tammie was at my wedding signing my marriage license. Even when someone told Tammie to focus on herself and to put herself first, she wouldn't do it. She honestly didn't know how to do it. Tammie was the most selfless person in the world. She would never miss an opportunity to celebrate someone she loved.
We also have photo evidence to prove it because Tammie documented absolutely everything. Her photo library is a comprehensive history of the lives of her family and her friends. We like to think that Tammie's love of photography started with us, as she used to dress us up as models in her parents' clothes for do-it-yourself photo shoots, though it turns out maybe she did this with Brian and Steffi also. It wasn't just us, it was everyone. Tammie was so completely invested in the people around her, she wanted nothing more than to celebrate their successes, capture snapshots of their joy, and create mementos that she would then send you out of the blue to brighten up your day. We could go on for hours about everything we love about Tammie, and we will probably spend the next few days doing exactly that. But to cut to the heart of it, we loved her immensely. We will miss her more than we can express. Our mom always used to say that when it came to the other Rosen kids, Brian's the thinker, Steffi's the doer, Tammie is the heart and soul.
None of us really know how to move forward without the heart and soul. And there will forever be a missing piece of our family without Tammie. But as we all grieve together, and as we listen to more Bruce Springsteen than we ever have in our lives, we will try to find some of that joy in life that Tammie embodied. We each have a responsibility to carry forward her generosity, her kindness, her selflessness, and her love for a good time. She wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Tammie, we love you. We will miss you forever. Good thing there's tissues here.
Thank you. Now we'll turn from Tammie's family to her friends, beginning with Chrissy.
Okay. Tammie did not. Oh, I am. Wait. Was that a joke? Okay. I'm Christina, but Tammie called me Chrissy, which 30 years later has stuck. I'm also PIA in the Rosen family, according to Kenny. Tammie and I met at Petty. We only overlapped 1 year, but our friendship is really a post-college sister bond. I was a little sister, a whole 1 inch shorter, 1 month younger, that she guarded as Steffi and Brian did for her. We have so many funny stories and memories, but honestly, my best are just hanging out with Tammie at the beach, watching movies, obviously, doing puzzles, playing backgammon, which she always had to beat me. When our parents hoped we'd be out on the husband prowl in Margate or the Hamptons. The sitting silent just because we could. We didn't need to constantly chat. We just needed to be next to each other, as Steffi said. She made me a Bruce lover. In true Tammie fashion, she didn't tell me we were going to an outdoor show after work one night, and it started pouring. Probably because I wouldn't go and ruin my blowout. We got out. I said, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" And she hands me a garbage bag and says, "Put it on, Chrissy, we're going." And we did. And Tammie, I can hear you giggling right now. I love you. We celebrated all our highs. We bawled through the lows. But she always wanted to protect me, especially sharing the news of her cancer. Tammie reached out to my husband, Rob, first to make sure I wasn't with my girls when we spoke. Rob and I pondered, why is Tammie texting you? And I said, "Oh my God, I know. I was being a total moron." And I said, "I know why. She's trying to convince you to let me go to Milan with her this summer to see Bruce." Well, what she was doing was making sure I was in a safe space to receive the news, because Tammie is always selfless. Rob loved Tammie like a sister, and my girls adored her like an aunt. We are so lucky she'd hunker down to work from our house in LA in her little Tammie nook. Truly, to know Tammie is to love her. Look around this room. All of you are a part of Tammie's love bubble, a piece of every walk of her life. It's pretty impressive, just like Tammie. Tam, you are a piece of me I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful you chose me as not only your friend, your little sister, and for making me a better person. All those, Chrissy be nice, when my salty side came out, worked. I will always love you. And Rosens and Graphs, you are stuck with me forever. Tammie, my angel, I hope you are throwing your best party yet, laughing with your dad. You are my brown-eyed girl. I love you more, always and forever.
I will invite up Leslie and I think some friends from Union, perhaps. All right, Leslie will represent. Fair enough.
Mitchell,
tissues. Oliver, I'm going to need the flask. This has been an impossible task. Writing a eulogy for your best friend of the past 30 years. I could do this. Tammie said we can do hard things. No words or amount of stories seemed to be enough, which is probably why our first version of her eulogy was about 10 minutes. Tammie was a legend at Union even before we all met. Everyone heard the rumor. Lauren and I saw it firsthand. A freshman girl was moving in with a U-Haul. Thank goodness you guys laughed. Parked at the Holiday Inn. While most of us arrived with Jaffa blocks and garbage bags of clothing, Tammie came to college with her Pier 1 Papasan chair and matching luggage. I met Tammie the first night of orientation. We became immediate partners in crime, literally, and very quickly met the rest of the girls. Ever since our first night all going out together, Halloween of freshman year, we have been best friends for life. There are endless stories we could all tell from those years, many probably not appropriate for right now. Over the past weeks, we have been flooded with memories of long, meandering talks, late nights not doing work, early mornings cramming for what we didn't do the night before, drives to Barnes & Noble because Tammie preferred to buy her books rather than deal with the library, road trips to DMB shows, which later turned into Tammie and I sneaking into DMB shows, uncontrollable laughs, and TV and movie marathons that we learned were film marathons, and dorm room hangs that became apartment hangs, and lots and lots and lots of parties. Tammie was the most fun, and she was also an incredible friend. She was smart, loved you unconditionally, was a trusted confidant, the person who would talk it through with you for as many hours as it took, your biggest cheerleader, and the person there for you in both good and difficult times. To a fault, she always let others shine instead of herself. Even this past weekend in the hospital, she would ask, "How are you doing?" "Not great, Tammie." In the city, Tammie became a different legend to us, the woman behind the velvet rope. She could have ditched us for a shinier, fancier life, but that is never who Tammie was. She was the most humble, down-to-earth, genuine friend. So she took us along for the ride, letting us tag along to fashion shows and then soon after movie premieres, none of which we had any business or permission to be at. So I apologize on behalf of us for any of you whose events we snuck into. Ever since freshman year, music has always been the backdrop of our relationships together, and that's especially true for our friendships with Tammie. Even up through this past weekend, as we watched her rock out to a mix of her favorite songs, or channel her inner Annie, to which she did not hesitate to hush us when we interrupted her vibe. There was no pure joy than watching Tammie, eyes closed, hands dancing, head bopping, slightly offbeat, and singing very off tune, getting lost in her favorite songs. So many lyrics remind us of Tammie. She was truly the best of what's around. She was our silver spring. And the words of her John Bon, she most definitely lived while she was alive. And even in her most difficult times, she never lost her incredible capacity for hope and positivity and the belief that the sun will come out tomorrow. As we all know, though, Tammie's heart will forever belong to two things: Bruce and the beach. Jersey Girl was one of her absolute favorite Bruce songs. The lyrics couldn't be a more perfect tribute to our very own Jersey Girl, who we all fell in love with the moment we met, and who we will be madly in love with for the rest of our lives. I'm gonna try. 'Cause down at the shore, everything's all right. With you and your baby on a Saturday night. Nothing matters in this whole wide world when you're in love with a Jersey girl. Over the past months, Tammie has shown us what courage, deep friendship, and love truly look like. And even now, as we face this difficult tomorrow, not knowing how to exist in a world without her, we will do our best to carry her beautiful spirit with us. As one college friend said, Tammie was the best of us. A few years ago, another friend from Union lost her mother. Forever the caretaker, Tammie, only weeks after losing her own father, reached out to her with these words of comfort. We hope that hearing Tammie's direct words right now will help comfort all of us today. And here's what she said. The day is a hard one. Move through it as best you can. It will be joyous to honor her and celebrate her and hurt and be heart-crushing at the same time. Talk and laugh and share her memories. Embrace and, oh man, cherish the community showing up with support, because it truly helps with the sorrow. We love you so much, Tammie. We thank you for being our friend, and we will see you later. I did it, Tam.
Now we call up Nina.
So there's a couple of themes that repeat. You won't be surprised. I'm Nina. I don't remember the first day I met Tammie. I recently asked her, and we sort of agreed to a story that sounded feasible. Something about her early days at Union and introductions through mutual friends. While the first moments of our acquaintance are fuzzy, the remainder of our 30 years of friendship are filled with vivid memories of absolute ridiculousness, family together time, deep love, and amazing adventures. As I thought about what to say today, I realized that for each Tammie story I had, there was a lesson I will carry with me, that she is no longer here. At Union, Tammie and I shared an art history major and many classes together. Back in those days, the only way to study the slides for a given class was to climb the stairs to the top of the arts building and in a tiny room adjacent to the attic over a light board. I am certain, I hope, modern technology has improved this process, but back then it was 25 people in a closet. And as I am sure you can all guess, Tammie regularly procrastinated so that we were there at the very last minute, usually with Oliver refreshments. The flask was there too. Hilarious banter, and most often a Tammie song to help us remember something or other about the painting in front of us. The lesson. Yes, we were studying at the last minute, Tammie, but the memory that stays today isn't the stress, but the camaraderie, the shared struggle, and the laughter. Sometimes the relationships built in the imperfect moments matter more than perfect preparation. Soon after college, I married my husband, Peter, and Tammie realized that my interfaith family meant that she could now celebrate Christmas. Every December, Tammie would drive out to the Berkshires and set herself up in whatever accommodations were available. For years, this was our basement, which was not a nice base. Was not the nicest of basements, but it was perfect for Tammie. And it didn't really matter because Tammie always followed her visit to our house with a week at Canyon Ranch. She would arrive with a list of films she had to watch. Early on, they were DVDs, and they were always transported in an overflowing Chanel shopping bag, bursting at the seams. I think I just saw the same bag at your house. More procrastination by Tammie had gifts arriving on our doorstep via UPS on Christmas Eve, but her gifting was legendary. She always found time to take my daughter Ava shopping, and Aunt Tammie never said no. I'm still slightly annoyed by the very unnecessary Grinch sweater. She would stay for weeks sometimes, and we would complete countless jigsaw puzzles. Tammie was demanding, often downright annoying, with how she dictated one should complete a puzzle. But day after day, piece after piece, the puzzles would be completed, and Tammie would document and then destroy. Tammie and her associated chaos became one of our most consistent Christmas traditions. The lesson: joy is often found in the imperfect, chaotic moments. The last-minute gift purchasing, the overflowing Chanel bag, the bossy puzzle strategies, none of it was orderly, but all of it was unforgettable. The tangible and the theoretical messiness was part of the Tammie magic. She carved out a place in our holiday, our home, our hearts. In 2019, Tammie decided to embark on a great adventure in search of some Tammie time. She had a loose itinerary and broadly invited others to join. At that exact moment, life handed me some flexibility, so I decided to join her for part of her U.S. leg. She picked me up in Denver, and we traveled to New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. I should say Steph was on this trip with us, even though she was not on this trip with us because she was on the phone the whole time. The antics were Tammie level, including a whiteout snowstorm, a busted BlackBerry, which shockingly could not be serviced in 2019, and Tammie talking her way out of a speeding ticket while I laughed hysterically by her side. The officer somewhere in the middle of New Mexico had clearly never met anyone like Tammie and was happy to let her off just to get her to stop talking. In retrospect, it was a surprising decision for me to go on this trip. I can't remember exactly what pushed me to say yes, but I did. The lesson: sometimes the most meaningful experiences come from saying yes without overthinking, trusting that the journey and the person beside you will make the rest worthwhile. This past May, we all learned of Tammie's diagnosis, and I offered, no matter the need, that I would be there. Tammie's first chemo treatment landed on a week that the Graffs were traveling, and so I decamped to Cherry Hill to play Nurse Nina. The chemo did not impact Tammie that much, but our friendship reached a new level as we talked about all forms of bodily fluids, and I nagged her to eat. Tammie regaled me with stories about friends, families, and colleagues. I'm sure I know something about all of you. We watched horrifically bad TV, and I took work meetings while Tammie listened in and commented on all of my coworkers as if they were actors in a reality show. Tammie was scared, but she was optimistic. The lesson: Levity doesn't deny fear, it helps us bear it. Tammie's career success was tremendous. Truly, at the press this week, I'm in awe. But I would argue her greatest accomplishment was all of us here, her vast network of friends, family, and colleagues. Tammie's love for her family and their love for her was truly something special. In the past few months, I've had a front row seat to watch it more closely. Simply put, the Rosen and Graff families are collectively astonishing. And also, watch Life 360 like it's a TV show. One person, however, deserves to be singled out, one person, however, deserves to be singled out. Everyone should have someone in their life who loves as hard and advocates as wisely as Stephanie. Tammie was truly blessed to have you as her sister. I will be thinking on and following my Tammie lessons for years to come. I will miss her dearly, but will carry her humor, spirit, and love with me for the rest of my days.
And finally, Caroline.
I did not write a eulogy because I couldn't write, and I'm much more comfortable with the written word than the spoken word. At the time, I thought I was channeling Tammie and just thinking about taking in what each of you meant for her, and now I'm realizing I'm channeling the procrastination that she and I shared. So this is a big self-aware moment that you're sharing. Tammie Rosen is my forever boss. Tammie's who raised me. Thanks, Mitch. And I think all of us in this room would identify that Tammie raised each of us, hearing from each of you, whether you're her colleague or her friend from high school or from college or her lifelong friend or her neighbor or her family. Tammie's capacity to absorb through her mind and through her heart was superhuman. And I don't think I've ever met anyone who loved so deeply and fought so fiercely for better and for worse. I worked for Tammie for 5 years at Tribeca, and 5 years in, I asked to meet with her, and I was pretty nervous, and I had to confess to her that I wanted her to be my boss forever, but I didn't want to be a publicist when I grew up, and I felt like we should have the conversation because I was still in my 20s, and I could see 30 years from now having the conversation. It would just be a little bit late. And she's like, great, okay, we're going to move you over here. And she basically just gave me a different job within 5 minutes. Tammie was someone who always thought about what other people needed. I think Tammie taught all of us how to fight really fiercely, how to be incredibly strong, and have absolute convictions with no apology and with no second guessing it, and at the same time, just be filled to the brim with kindness. Tammie thought of everyone but herself at every single moment of every single day. The capacity she had at Tribeca as they built significant work around the entire world and relaunched the neighborhood of Tribeca, and all they accomplished for the city and for the independent film industry is remarkable. Tammie did not work at Tribeca. Tammie embodied Tribeca. Tammie believed every single thing that Bob and Jane set out to do, and Tammie's voice contributed to every single moment of that organization. Tammie's really funny, so I'm really sorry I'm not capturing the funny part and how fun it was to work with her. When I worked at Sundance, Tammie and I got to be colleagues again a few years later. And at Sundance, she did the same thing. I think those of us who were able to read some of the writing that's come out the last few days is just the tip of the iceberg. Tammie believed so fiercely in independent film. She believed in the filmmakers, she believed in the audiences, and she had the capacity to constantly be taking in information and thinking about what was best for every person, the filmmaker, the audience, the most junior person. I was an unpaid intern who did shorts publicity for her, and recently learned I was only hired because I wore inappropriately casual shoes to the interview. So she thought I could roll with it, which no one's ever accused me of ever again. So the joke was on her. But Tammie really, you would value. When she walked into a room, it didn't matter if you were the director of the opening night film or the founder of the institution, or you were an usher and you were a lowly intern. You had value, and she listened to you, and you left understanding your value. And I think the last few weeks, as we've all been gathering and talking about what Tammie contributed to and what she accomplished and what she gave, Tammie didn't actually need to hear all of that from us, because Tammie had such deep trust, and Tammie loved so deeply that she didn't need us to tell her and remind her of how many lives she touched, and that she changed an entire generation of independent film, and each person that got to meet her along the way. I think that Tammie, the last few days in conversations with Jacob and in listening to Remy's remarks today, I think optimism is something that has come up that really reminds us what drove Tammie, what afforded us to be loved by Tammie, and for her to give so much to so many and to touch so many lives. And I thank Sundance and Tribeca for the incredible work they've done to honor Tammie to the best one can, which is a really impossible task without her there to hold our hand and to guide us through it. But the amount of lives that she touched will continue to just be loved by her even without her physically with us. So to Tammie and to eternal optimism, thank you.
Adonai natan v'nai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. Lord gives, Lord takes away. But still we thank God for all those incredible things that we just heard about from family and friends, just the tip of the iceberg, as we said, that Tammie did, accomplished, experienced, and gave throughout her life. As I prepared for today, I opened up the Rosen family file that we have here at TBS. Yes, we have files. To be honest, I opened it because I hoped to find a humorous comment from on Tammie's Hebrew School report cards. She could be somewhat chatty in class, I hear. Or perhaps something from confirmation. She was the only one of the Rosen children to go through confirmation. I'm looking at you, Brian and Stephanie. Though, in fairness, you said that she did it for the party and the trip to Brooklyn, as well as for having the excuse to have a car at Petty, so of course she could drive back and forth to her classes on Sunday at the synagogue. She was always pretty savvy. But we know that Judaism did mean a lot to Tammie, and when I visited with her and with you this last Sunday in the hospital, and we were talking, Tammie recalled marching with the Torahs from Haddon Heights to Cherry Hill when TBS moved, and she wanted to show me a photo of her and Adrian Abramowitz marching with those Torahs together on that rainy day. And it was especially meaningful for Tammie because she was one of the first bat mitzvahs at the new building. And this leads me to what I found here in this file. These are Rabbi Lewis's notes about Tammie for her bat mitzvah. It's dated March 25th, 1989. Here is what he wrote. Tammie is sensitive, intuitive with people, sweet, giving, and a self-starter. She can find the good in people. She is also bubbly. She can be very talkative. She is beyond her years as a communicator. I think Rabbi Lewis captured it pretty well. All traits that served her well throughout her life. But then clipped to Rabbi Lewis's note was this: Tammie's bat mitzvah devar Torah. And as I read it, similar to something I think it was Caroline or maybe Nina said, no, actually it was Leslie, excuse me. It felt like its words were echoing throughout the years to this very moment. Listen. Here's what she wrote. Today's Sedra is called Shmini. It begins on the 8th day when special sacrifices were brought. It then tells about how Nadav and Avihu, Aaron's sons, offered a strange fire to God. For this action, God sent forth fire, and they died instantly. When Moses tries to explain Nadav and Avihu's sudden loss, it is very interesting that Aaron reacts with silence. Now, silent is not how we describe Tammie or anyone in the Rosen family. But what Tammie picks up on here is a challenging yet important message for today. Commentaries struggle to understand why Nadav and Avihu died and what Aaron's silence is really about. Is it shock, anger, grief, acceptance? What the commentaries see in Aaron's silence in the face of his son's deaths is the array of human emotions that any of us can feel upon hearing about a loss, especially one that happens too soon and seems so unfair, a loss like Tammie's. How do we respond? And so Tammie helps us. She goes on in her Devar Torah to say this: the laws of Judaism are very important. It is not enough to know in your heart that you are Jewish. It is more important to live as a Jew. Aaron was a role model for the people, and though it was not clear exactly how he felt, he continued to work as the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. The message here is that without role models, without people teaching us through example, it is impossible to learn how to be Jewish. What I would add to Tammie's words is that without people teaching us through example, it is impossible to learn how to live. In her work, in her friendships, in her family, in all aspects of her life, Tammie taught all of us how to live. She did this in the entertainment industry, as we heard, not only by all of her incredible accomplishments, of which there were so many, but also by expressing her Jewish identity, by always advocating for fairness in media for Jews, as well as by using her platform to ensure Jewish voices were heard. But even more than that, what is even more impressive than all of the important positions and accolades is that Tammie was beloved by so many people throughout the industry. The entertainment business is not an easy business. To do it well and to succeed is impressive enough, but to do it well and to be beloved by so many, now that is a real achievement that speaks to who Tammie was throughout her life, from her bat mitzvah to this very day. And we heard how Tammie lived this lesson about being an example in life in so many other ways too. We heard from her friends about how she was so fun-loving, supportive, positive, and active, and wise as well. And of course, we heard about Tammie did this for her family. Tammie was so devoted to all of you and you to all of her. She was an incredible daughter to her parents, to you, Cheryl, and to Kenny, Zichrono Livracha, blessed memory. And the two of them had a real special bond. We would joke that they were twins at times. Even as a baby, you said Tammie had her dad tied around her little finger. He would come home from work late at night exhausted, and he'd wake up little Tammie, put her on the kitchen counter, and they'd eat ice cream together. And that strong bond continued throughout Kenny's life, and I saw it especially as Kenny's health declined. I remember visiting him once in the hospital and talking with you, Cheryl, and you were telling me about Tammie's travels at the time, and suddenly your phone rang, and I think she was calling from Thailand to check in, see how he was doing, and of course came home and helped and did everything she could for her dad and for you and for everyone. No matter where she was, she checked in constantly. She was always there to help and to support. She was such a loving and caring daughter, sister, aunt, cousin, and friend, always worried about everyone else. You all got to see how Tammie did this throughout her life. And you summed up all these years well by saying that Tammie was always so positive and optimistic. She just loved life. And this is one of the reasons why Tammie's diagnosis this past April was so shocking. When you called to tell me about it, Cheryl, I remember you also said that Tammie was not going to let it get in the way of her living to the fullest. So much so she was determined not to miss a cousin's wedding, which I learned now is Oliver's wedding, in May, I believe, and she was there living it up. And of course, since then, it's been an extremely difficult last few months as it became apparent that Tammie's cancer was incurable. But despite this raw deal, the way that all of you, especially Tammie's family as well as her friends, her people, came together to support her was truly a blessing. She had amazing support from all of you, and especially you, Stephanie, who managed her care, brought her into your home, did everything you could to make sure she had everything she needed. All of the love and kindness that Tammie gave to all of you throughout her life was returned to her in these last weeks and months. Even during this difficult time, Tammie taught us how to live and how to find the blessings in the most impossible of moments. On Sunday, when I came by to see her at the hospital, Stephanie, you told me about that message from Bob De Niro about her and her incredible work she did at Tribeca. And as you said, after she listened to it, she cried and said, "I've had a good life." Though we all wish it had been a longer life, it certainly was a good life. A life that lifted up so many people. A life of incredible experiences and entertainment and travel around the world, and most importantly with all of you, her people. Tammie lived exactly how she wanted, and for that even more, we are grateful. When Tammie taught our congregation at TBS all those years ago at her bat mitzvah resonates for us today. There is no right way to respond to a tragedy like this. Aaron's silence in the Torah reflects our feelings of loss, of grief, of shock, of anger. Still, we move forward like he did, for we have no other choice. But we're able to do so because of love and support for each other, and even more so because of the example that Tammie set for all of us throughout her life. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach. The Lord gives, the Lord takes away. But still we thank God for all the time in between. Though we wish that Tammie had more days and years in between, it is because of how she lived those days and years that she had. We know that she'll always be with us, and her memory will always be for a blessing. We rise for a final prayer.
El male rachamim shochein b'amramim hamseh menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina b'malot kedoshim u'te'arim k'zohar arakim azhirim et nishmat Yisraelit bat melech besura shalachar olama began eden tehei menuchata Rachamim, hastireh beseter kenafecha leolamim. Utzror bitzror achayim et nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata. B'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava, v'nomar amen, amen.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Tammie Rosen, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. You may be seated.
From here, we will head to Locustwood Memorial Park in Cherry Hill for the burial. And after that, Shiva will begin this afternoon at the Westin Hotel, 555 Fellowship Road in Mount Laurel. Visitors, comforters are welcome from 1:30, and there'll be a service there at 3 p.m. And then Shiva will continue tomorrow evening at Stephanie Mitchell's home, 514 Queen Anne Road in Cherry Hill. There'll be comforters welcome after Shabbat with a service at 7 o'clock, and then on Sunday, comforters are welcome afternoon, and there'll also be a service at 7 p.m. Sunday evening.
set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time for planting and a time for uprooting. A time for hurting and a time for healing. A time for tearing down and a